Hey everyone, Moses here, and today I want to do something a little differently. I want to talk about some of the few things one should consider before buying an expensive guitar. Out of my 11 years of playing guitar, I've had guitars that are a few $100s to pushing $3,000, $4,000, and when I look at my wall with all these expensive guitars, I don't regret buying any of them. But sometimes I think, when I have an inexpensive guitar with, decent pickups and that's decently built well, is it really that much better sounding than the guitars I have that are worth, 3-4 times that price? And I'm going to be going over just a few things. Hopefully, some of these considerations might help you guys in the future if you're considering buying an expensive guitar, because a major purchase like that requires some thought. And if you have gear acquisition syndrome, like I've had in the past and still do, you really have to think about this, because yeah, you might be surprised that the expensive guitar might not sound 3 times more better than your guitar that's worth way less. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Okay, so the first thing to consider before buying an expensive guitar is the sound. So for example, I have with me on my lap is the Jackson KE2, made in the United States. This is a really high-end guitar. It cost me about $1,800. New, they go about they recently just gone up, but in a black finish. These, obviously it's white and they don't make them anymore, but generally, like the black ones, the new ones now, they are almost $3,000, and even spending like $1,800 was a lot of money. And as you can see, the pickups are Seymour Duncan's, a JB and the Jazz. That's a classic setup, and there are a lot of inexpensive guitars made overseas that are within the $800 price range that have those same pickups, and they sound fantastic. Not to say this doesn't sound fantastic, because it sounds great. The thing is that I have another guitar with those same exact pickups and they sound, I want to say, just as good. Well, you know what? They sound just as good. Obviously you have different bridges and configurations that influence the tone, and different variables like that, whether string through, bridges, hardtails, whatever. If you have a guitar with a slightly different setup that's inexpensive compared to this really expensive one, I mean, it's not going to sound bad, nor better nor worse. They're going to sound just as good, and if not similar, because they have similar pickups. So this guitar that I have that I'm talking about is a Schecter C1 Classic, and this one has the exact same pickups as my Jackson Kelly. This one has a JB and the Jazz, another classic setup, and this guitar sounds just as good. And being $800 and the sound you're getting is fantastic compared to a guitar that's pushing $3,000. When I play this guitar, I kind of wonder and compare the tones between both instruments through recordings, and I just paid this much money for a guitar that sounds similar to an $800 one. But that's not the ultimate factor buying an expensive guitar, obviously, because there's way more than just buying an expensive guitar for sound. That's just one thing to consider, is that if you want to get a really good tone, you'd be surprised what for $800, even $700 with same guitar pickups might sound, compared to the really expensive guitar that's $3,000, $2,000. Because I mean, yeah, I love the Kelly, but that guitar does not sound 2, 3, 4 times as good as this one. No way. So I learned it the hard way. I have other guitars with the same pickups, inexpensive and very expensive. They both sound great, and that was the biggest thing for me to consider, and I hope it's something you guys consider as well, because sound is a very important factor when buying a very expensive instrument. Okay, the second thing you should really consider before buying an expensive guitar is that you are not going to play so much better, just like that, because the reality is that if you're already a guitar player that is kind of struggling with certain techniques, or you're not practicing enough, and if you think your solution is to buy a really expensive guitar rather than focusing on your, playing, then I mean you're still gonna be that bad player on a really expensive guitar. I've learned this from experience as well, because I have played with expensive guitars, and I really like it and I'm enjoying playing it. But then there's some things where rather than buying an expensive guitar thinking that they'll make it a certain lick, or my whole technique in general is just going to be much better with this really expensive guitar because it has this neck or it has this feature. And no, it never works that way, because I mean, buying an expensive guitar, you will feel more inspired to play. You are going to put more time into it, hopefully, because you spent so much money on the guitar. And of course, seeing it on your wall or wherever you have it, you will feel more inspired to play it. But I've seen it before with a lot of people where they want to play fast, and then they always have to buy the best gear. They want to play really good, but it doesn't work that way. If I'll say it again, if you're a bad player to begin with, that expensive guitar is not going to make you play 2-3 times better than you were before. And yeah, that's another thing to consider too. I mean, not to say that bad players shouldn't have nice guitars or anything like that, because you could have whatever you want. No one's going to stop you. But thinking that your playing is going to be so much better as soon as you get a guitar that's kind of way off your league, and it's just going to throw you off. You're just going to still remain at that level. Yeah, you will feel more inspired to play it more, but if you view it as your only solution is to get a more expensive guitar, you shouldn't view it that way, because it rarely ever works out like that. The last thing I want you guys to consider before buying a really expensive guitar is to look at your options. And I mean to look at your local Craigslist, Reverb, eBay. Start learning how to look for used items. I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying your expensive guitar full retail price from Guitar Center, Sam Ash, or whatever major music business store you want to buy from. Because I bought, for example, this Edwards Alexi Signature for $800, and brand new they go for almost $2,000. Of course, people buy new guitars for a reason. They want to break them in themselves. They don't like other people that have put their blood, sweat, and tears and whatever onto that guitar they're about to buy. Or maybe because they get turned off by dinks and stuff. And for me, I don't really care, because I saved almost $1,000 on this guitar. And if these parts ever go bad, you could easily replace them and you'll still save a lot of money. Really consider where you're buying your guitar from. Look at your local Craigslist. Again, there's so much stuff to look at. Look daily. You'll be surprised what you could find. A lot of the guitars I've shown on videos, they've always been bought as B stock or in like B plus condition. I just never saw myself buying an expensive guitar full price where I could find the exact same instrument for not half the price. If you're lucky you could, but for like a couple $100 less, and that way you save more money and then you buy more expensive instruments. But yeah, really consider where you guys buy the guitars. I know like there's a lot of guitars that are really cheaply made, or they're really damaged online, and once you get them you just don't like them. But as soon as you start learning how to look up finding deals on whatever website you look at, then you're going to be much happier paying for that really nice guitar at a fair condition or a really good condition. Sometimes people don't know what they're selling, so you might walk away with something really great like I have in the past. So I hope these tips or these considerations help you. If you are in the position of buying a really expensive instrument, if you really want to, I said go for it, because there's a joy you get from it. It's that guitar you've always wanted. Seeing it, playing it every day, you feel more inspired, all that stuff. But just keep in mind that there are some drawbacks, and that's depending on the buyer, because like I was saying, if you're a bad player, You're not going to become like a god once you buy, you know, the best guitar in the world that you get. But, you know, it's all about saving money. But if you want to buy a new, go for it. But I hope these considerations, you know, help. And, you know, I'm going to do more stuff like this. Subscribe if you'd like. You know, I really appreciate it. And, you know, I hope you guys have a good day.